What's going on, family? Welcome to the Trillionaires podcast. I'm your host, the wealth activist Dante Philippe. Episode 1 is going to be a real one. First, I think we should get some things out of the way, just so we can understand what this podcast is about. It's called the Trillionaires podcast. Is it called the Trillionaires podcast because it's ran by a trillionaire? No, it's not. It's called the Trillionaire podcast because our community, and specifically I'm talking about the African American, the black community, whichever you want to use, has accumulated $1 trillion worth of wages. Wages, that means income, right? And we have not, for the last 200 years, we have not been able to figure out how to transform those wages into wealth. So that's the dedication of this podcast. This podcast is about transforming the mindset, creating a paradigm shift that will prepare us to take advantage of what is considered the greatest wealth transfer in a generation. And I know you saw me say that in the commercial, but it's a real thing, and we're gonna be talking about exactly what that means, and what that's about. You know, we've had so many gurus and specialists in the finance world trying to help our community, but unfortunately, we have, while we've done a great job putting together information that is helpful and that can put, the people that are prepared in the right position to partake in those opportunities, I think we're missing a step in the development within our community, and that's the step of preparing our hearts, our minds, our spirit. Because building wealth, and I'm talking about as a community, building wealth is a spiritual journey. It's not just about the numbers, even though the numbers are important. It's not just about the economic science, even though that part is important too. If you don't have the spirit, if you don't have the mind, if you don't have the psychological shaping to prepare you for the journey of building wealth, then that journey can be taxing and it can beat you. So that's what this podcast is all about. This podcast is about giving you the mind, the emotional wherewithal, because you have to be able to manage your psychological state and your emotional state in order to prepare yourself to conquer the challenges that are in front of you when you start talking about building wealth and becoming a freedom fighter. And I'm talking about a financial freedom fighter. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand that economics and finance is always warfare. And I won't get on my soapbox today, but you got to understand that. And I'm going to show you that and prove to you today. Okay, so we're going to start off with the first topic. And that topic is the election. As you all know, as of right now, it has been projected that Joe Biden is the 46th president of the United States of America. And, this show is not per se a political show, even though when you're talking about finances and economics, you can't help but to mention and to talk about simultaneously politics as well. So this is not about the left or the right. This is not about favoring one candidate over another candidate. This has nothing to do with that, but I want you to understand what an election actually is from an economic standpoint. See, unfortunately, we have latched on to only the social aspects of the election. Excuse me. We've only latched on to the things that affect us from a civil perspective. But we don't understand that the greatest impact of an election is your economic perspective. Money, straight up. Money. You can never get past the money. I don't care what you're doing. you can't walk past the money. The money always tells you the true story. You know, so I'll give you some observations about the economic side of what we just witnessed in the election. Let's talk about real quick the presidency of George Bush, the son, George W. Bush, right? George W. Bush, the son. If you pay attention, every president has the assignment of creating wealth, specifically for the already wealthy, right? And this is not a conspiracy, this is just the truth. And the reason why you know this is because billionaires always invest in a candidate. Billionaires always invest in a candidate. And I'm gonna tell you something, you will even see that a lot of times if you do your homework, you will see that billionaires will invest in both candidates on both sides of the aisle. What does that tell you? If a billionaire is investing their money in both a Democrat and a Republican in the same race, then what does that tell you? That tells you that economics and finance, money supersedes or precedes politics. Money precedes politics. Politics does not activate until money moves. The money determines the candidate. The money determines the policies. The money decides who wins and who loses. The money decides who is going to have the opportunity to build wealth. The money decides who's going to get the tax breaks. The money decides all of these things. So ignoring the money aspect of politics and anything else you do in life, you're doing yourself a disservice. I gotta lay the groundwork. Episode 1, we gotta lay the groundwork, and I gotta help you understand why this podcast is important. I'm not here to hear myself talk. I'm not here to be entertaining, even though we're gonna be a little entertaining at times. But I'm not here just to be an entertainer. I'm not here, to just get views up. I'm here because there is a disparity in our knowledge base. Y'all know what the Bible says. It says that my people perish for the lack of knowledge. See, I know that it's difficult for us to understand that in our community because we were told that knowledge is power, but in our economic system, we were never taught who we were. And we were never given the education that would empower us to really become the power structure, or to have to give us the ability to have a seat at the table, or really even better, to create our own table. So it's almost a trigger word to hear that knowledge is power, because we were told that since we were children, and for most of us and many of us, those words have not rang true when it comes down to impacting our lives in a way that is positive and can feed our children and solve our problems. I don't want to ramble, but let's get back to the point. George W. Bush. Let's look at his presidency. What was the wealth instrument of George W. Bush's presidency? Every president has a wealth instrument. Every president has a policy plan. Every president has a trajectory economically to impact the pockets of the wealthy. And the reason why I say that, notice I didn't say GDP, okay? Notice I'm not talking about the GDP. And look up, Google that right now. Google GDP right now. If you haven't heard of GDP, look up GDP right now. Okay, gross domestic product, okay? Look up the GDP. That tells you how well or how bad the country is doing economically, right? So to speak, based on goods and services, all right? So I'm not talking about the GDP. I'm specifically talking about the wealthy, because the GDP can be not favorable, but the wealthy still keep getting rich. So we got to put the pieces of this puzzle together. We got to understand how this impacts us and why it's important that we begin to truly take it seriously about building our wealth and transforming those wages into assets, into wealth, so that we can build our own table. George W. Bush, what was it? All right, I'll give you the secret. George W. Bush, his economic trajectory, the policies that was important to his administration and to his agenda was the military-industrial complex. What happened during George W. Bush's entire presidency? Warfare. Warfare. I would have you know that while warfare is costly to the taxpayer, it is a payday for the wealthy. If you know war is coming, you know where to put your money, you know where to invest your money to ensure that you will receive dividends and or that you will receive multiples, okay, on your money. Double, triple, quadruple your money based on where you are investing because of the events that is happening in the world. Today I'm not going to go dive deep into that, but I want you to understand that George W. Bush, this is not about whether you like him or you don't like him. I want you to understand how the system works. His entire presidency was about warfare. Remember, for those of us who could remember, we had alerts of terrorist attack, terrorist threats. We had the high alert, the mid alert. We had that. You see what I'm saying? There was always, notice that every president has a crisis. Notice that every president must manage a crisis, but what you don't understand that every crisis has an economic attachment. Somebody is accumulating wealth during that crisis. Now, whether it's engineered or not, that's up to you to know. That's up to you to research. I'm not into conspiracy theories, but I want you to understand that the data proves, you understand, that every president will manage a crisis, and that crisis will produce wealth for somebody. All right. So now let's go down. Since we talked about George W. Bush, let's go to the next president. You know, our next president was Barack Obama. What was Barack Obama's main economic trajectory as a president? What was it that he was assigned to manage? What was the crisis? Right? We were coming out of wartime, so you know there was a little bit of war still. There was war still going on. But what was his main? Who was the industry? The first industry with George W. Bush, I told you, was the military-industrial complex. That was the military industry, the military-industrial complex. What was it for Barack Obama? It was pharma. The pharmaceutical industrial complex was the industry that most backed Barack Obama's presidency, and they had the most skin in the game in terms of policy during his presidency. Understand, George W. Bush, he was passing policy that had to do with war. But when Barack Obama got into office, one of the first things on his agenda was passing health care for all. Now, what does that mean? I know that from a social and civil perspective, you're going to just look at that part and say, listen, he is creating the opportunity for people who do not have health care to receive health care. That is absolutely, that's true. That's true. And that is an awesome thing. But let me tell you, there's economic implications that you have to understand about that policy. Passing, passing, and I'll give you an example of what I mean in a minute. Passing policy for universal health care, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, passing that policy, what it essentially did was guarantee patients for the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Barack Obama put into place policy that would make drugs, now, I mean, when I say drugs, I'm talking about legal pharmaceutical drugs, cheaper for people, and also the government would help to pay for it. So essentially, the same way that George W. Bush unlocked funds from the government in order to pay the military industrial complex contractors, because please understand that the government doesn't own tanks, right? Doesn't make tanks, doesn't make military grade technology. The government doesn't create that stuff. The government pays contractors to do that stuff. And behind that are multi-billion-dollar corporations and investors that stand to gain in an event where they have to go to war, because the government has to pay for weaponry. The government has to pay for, not only that, the government also has to pay for fuel. So there are multiple, because there was another factor in George W. Bush's presidency. He was also ensuring that the oil companies that were doing very well at that time, that the oil companies were making loads and loads of money. So both the military industrial complex as well as the oil complex was making tons of money during the presidency of George W. Bush. Barack Obama now, back to him, pharmaceuticals. And then here's how he caps it off. He caps it off by his policy I'm talking about, his policy. The policy caps it off by saying, if you are working and you do not have health care, you're going to have to pay a tax. So I remember when I was a kid, where car insurance was not in law. Car insurance was not a law when I was a kid. It was your choice. You could have it or not have it. So that means that you could easily get into an accident, unfortunately, and the person that you hit or the person that hit you, if they don't have insurance, you got to come out of pocket, or you got to pay the deductible if you are the person that has insurance, or if you all total your cars, you just don't have a car anymore. But government put car insurance in law, made policy. Now, yes, from the social civil perspective, you look at that and say, some people may say, yes, I'm glad they did that, because if I get into an accident, I want to make sure that it's covered. I want to make sure that I'm covered, that I'm not, in a situation where I have to get a brand new car or whatever the case may be, and I don't receive any funds. Yes, that's the upside for the individual. But please understand that policy guaranteed that the insurance sector industry was guaranteed to have customers. That means that if you're going to drive, you have to have insurance. You now do not have a choice. I'm breaking all this down. I'm giving y'all some serious game today. Because y'all think that elections is only about civil and social issues. It's not. It is not. Every policy that's on the table has an economic attachment to it. Someone is waiting to get paid. Someone is waiting to get paid, right? So then let me ask you this. Okay, Donald Trump, he was what I call the independent president because he did not have any strings attached to him due to his economic status, due to the fact that he was already a wealthy man. He did not need any backing from billionaires or any industries to back him. Therefore, there was no control over him. Therefore, he was truly and honestly a threat to the system because that means that he could push his own agenda. So what agenda and what industry did he choose? Is anybody surprised? Donald Trump made sure that the number one industry that he took care of in his presidency was real estate. Real estate. He put into policy the biggest tax breaks ever for real estate investment. It makes sense. He's the hotel guy. He owns buildings. That's his business, real estate. I need y'all to pay attention to this. Right? I need y'all to pay attention to this. This is serious. So now, here comes Joe. Here comes President-elect Joe. Well, I will have you understand again that the same people that backed Barack Obama is connected to Joe. You all, if you pay attention, Donald Trump was at war with a very powerful industry, and that was the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Pharma is very powerful. They are the number one purchaser of airtime on television. They're the number one, meaning that they are airing commercials for big money for networks. They are the reason why these networks are still going, these news networks. They are the reason why. They are the number one. So that means that they can control, because of where their dollars flow, they can control the narrative of media because through there and make that industry continue and flourish. Where the money goes, the power flows. You understand? All right? So, that being said, I need you to understand that you have to become savvy about elections and not just pay attention to the social aspect or the civil aspect, because that is for the common man. The power, the community that, the community with very little to no power. I'll give you an example. The pandemic was one of the greatest economic opportunities and, wealth opportunities you will ever experience. How? When jobs were shutting down and people, and on welfare and need unemployment checks. How? Well, listen, go back and pay attention. Pay attention to the money. Pay attention to the money. You understand? Pay attention. Who has just received a major contract to create a vaccine for the current pandemic? I'm going to tell you who. Pfizer. Pfizer is a pharmaceutical company. They just cashed in major on the pandemic. They're not the only ones. I'm just giving, that's just an example. Guess who the pharmaceutical industrial complex, guess who their candidate is? Joe Biden. They stand to make a lot of money. Who else is connected to the pharmaceutical industrial complex? Dr. Fauci. There's no conspiracy in what I'm telling you. 1 + 1 is 2. There's no conspiracy in what I'm telling you. I need you to understand. I'm laying the groundwork today on episode 1. I need you all to understand the power of the money. Because too many of us are walking around with our eyes closed and not understanding what is happening around us. And I'm going to tell you something. You need to pay attention before it's too late. You need to pay attention before it's too late. Anybody who is not working on their economic status, this has nothing to do with materialism. This has to do with freedom and security. Anyone who is not working on their economic, listen to me, financial management is right next to godliness. If you care about your spirituality and you are not just as concerned about your economic position, then you are missing a major piece of your well-being. You're missing a major piece, and listen, for those who from a theological standpoint think that that's not true, well, you need to read back on your Bible, because the Bible is full of economic principles, stories. I mean, over and over again, you see the Bible referencing economics. Yes, even Jesus. I mean, so many times that you wouldn't be able to believe it. So understand that crises always present a opportunity for wealth building, and in this case right now, wealth transfer. We'll talk about that later. So now you have to decide who you want to be. You have to make the conscious paradigm shift to turn from being the indoctrinated consumer to the freed investor. You don't realize you've been indoctrinated to consume. All right? Again, this is no conspiracy. This is fact. This is fact. You've been taught since you were a child that every Christmas it is time to go out and buy things. As a matter of fact, you've been taught every holiday to go buy something. Okay, you don't believe me? I'll show you. Again, the same way that there is an industry connected to every president, there's an industry connected to every holiday. There's an industry connected to every holiday. I'll prove it to you. All right? Let's start with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is payday for the food industry. Everyone that is working a job or that is receiving any kind of income, wherever it's coming from, for Thanksgiving is going to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on food. That is a major payday. A major payday for the food industry. Right after the payday for the food industry, we added a secondary or in-between holiday, a buy holiday, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we call it Black Friday. Okay, go look it up. Whenever a company is in the black, right, that means that they're doing well, right? Black Friday. So understand that that day is a day of consumerism. It is a day where you're going to go buy your TVs, your computers, your phones, whatever it is that you've been wanting all year long. And guess what? You think you're getting a discount. And you are. Directly, you may be getting a discount, a 20%, 30, 40, up to 50% discount. But understand something. If you have indoctrinated an entire country to go out on the same day and buy consumables and buy electronics, buy. Guess what? That is a major payday for that industry. So guess what? Their margins, it doesn't matter. They can afford to lose, or not really lose, because honestly, they always mark up what they sell anyway. So they can afford to bring down their margins a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And take 25% off of their profit margins, because you've got 3, 4, 5 times the customers coming into the store at one time. I'm sure that there are stores that survive on that one day alone in a year because of the sales that happen on that year. Then here comes Christmas. Christmas was always the toy industry's, and it's the toy industry's holiday. I'm showing y'all the money today. Like, this is episode 1. We just getting started. I don't even have all the time to break everything down. But listen, it is the holiday. Christmas is the toy industry's holiday. I promised you that every major holiday, right, has an industry connected to it. All right. So, you know, even when there's not a direct industry connected, there's always, they take advantage of sales. So when President's Day comes, we know we got Martin Luther King. They don't do much with that because that's right next to, you know, that's the closest really to the presidential inauguration, things of that nature. You know, we're off. So, you know, President Obama did a great thing, but makes it a day of service, which is great. So that's the one holiday that really doesn't have an industry connected to it. But President's Day, you talking about President's Day? Oh, let's go with New Year's. New Year's is a major holiday for the travel industry, for tourism. New Year's is connected to tourism. People are gathering in New York City. They're gathering on the West Coast. I know we're in the pandemic now, but they're gathering in these places. And understand, states make buku money. These states make buku money. Also, television. New Year's is a major day for television, for the television industry. Okay? Major day for the television industry. All right? So you got New Year's, you got President's Day sales, right? Then here comes Easter. What's the industry that's connected to Easter? Easter is connected to the clothes industry. Even if you as an adult don't go out and everybody's dressing their kids for Easter. People that don't even go to church go get their children Easter outfits now just to post them on social media. The clothes industry. All right. 4th of July is connected to the American ideology. That's American Industry Day. America's industry. And when I say that, meaning that it's a marketing day for America's story, and you're going to sell everything connected to America's story on the 4th of July. But let me back up. I apologize, because obviously we have Memorial Day, right? That's military. Okay? Military. You got the 4th of July. Okay, you got, we know Labor Day again isn't major. I mean, it's major for people who got time off, but it's it's a time for cookouts. Memorial Day, another food day. 4th of July, another food day. Labor Day, another food day. Okay, these are, again, there's industries that are connected to holidays. There's industries that are connected to presidents. So let's get back to the point. My point is that you have to make a conscious decision now that I am done with the indoctrination of consumerism, and I am going to walk into the freedom of being an investor. See, everybody's talking about being transforming themselves into an entrepreneur. Everybody's not an entrepreneur. There are millionaires who have jobs. There are millionaires that became millionaires from their jobs. Okay? There are billionaires who became billionaires from their jobs. Okay? So it doesn't mean that that the only way, though I encourage everyone to do something whether it's a job or a business, do something that you are skilled at, that you would do for free. Give that skill, create value in the market so that you can do it with longevity and with excellence, right? So that's what I'm saying. So I do encourage you to do that, but understand, I want you to transform. It's not about everybody being an entrepreneur, but you must become an investor. Investing is the way to wealth. Period. Investing is the way to wealth. And as a community, we have to transform from consumers to investors. So I'm going, today I'm not going to go much further. I'm going, just digress here in a minute. But like I told you all, we are in the greatest transfer of wealth in a generation. And listen, you can't afford to miss this. I'm going to be giving some game on this podcast that you need to sit down. You need to play with your kids in the car, with your aunt, with your mom. You got to sit. Listen, this is not a game. You can't afford to miss this. You can't afford not to be, not to receive this knowledge. This knowledge, I'm telling you, that's the beginning. The beginning of freedom starts with your knowledge and your wisdom. You must have a wealth of knowledge before you can have wealth in your pockets. Straight up. That's the way it works. So my expertise, okay, in the financial services area is cryptocurrency, smart contracts. Okay, that's my area. But I'm gonna tell you the areas that are important to me. I'm not an expert in this third area, but I am connected to experts, and that is the monetization of credit. Credit in America is the foundation of wealth building. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of what I said. Credit is the foundation. Now listen, everybody's journey is going to be different. Don't feel no type of way. Right? That's another word that we're scared of. We've been taught to be afraid of the word credit. We've had so many people with bad experiences with credit, and they start teaching the kids. We start teaching our kids, don't have credit, don't have credit cards, don't get credit. But I'm gonna tell you, it's the misuse of credit that is dangerous, not credit itself. Credit is the most powerful wealth building tool you could ever have. It is a way for you to get access to money freely just based on your record. I mean, that is a phenomenal system. But we have to master how to use it. And I won't get into that today. Because again, like I said, I'm not an expert in that area, but I am connected to Access, and we're going to have guests on this show that is going to give you all game, understanding, wisdom, knowledge that's going to help you break yourself and your family free, and most of all, us as a community. So listen, The next episode, I'm going to start getting into some of these vehicles, specifically some in my area of expertise with cryptocurrency, smart contract. Just to give you a little bit of my background, and I'll tell these stories, over the time, but over the summer, first time in my life, I was able to service my community, and we were able to circulate just under $250,000 in the summertime. And I'm talking about group economics. I'm talking about real group economics. Okay? Real group economics. We were able to do that in 6 to 8 weeks. Major. We grew from 0 to 700 people in a matter of 6 weeks. So, I'm not talking about something that I don't know. I'm truly a community wealth activist, and I do this. I'm in the trenches, and I'm here to service our community. And I'm telling you, and I invite you to join us. Join our community. If you want to know how to join our community, just hit me in the DM, okay? Hit me in the DM, and I'll what you need so that you can get connected. But whatever your vehicle, whatever your route is, see, again, a lot of times, a lot of these wealth gurus are starting at level 10, right? And they're not helping the everyday person to start their journey. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help the everyday working individual that, yes, you have some challenges. Yes, you have some hurdles to overcome. Yes, you have some credit issues to deal with. Yes, you got some things, but understand that there is a route to wealth for you. You just have to first build the mind, and then the money will come. I'm here to build the mind. That's episode 1. I'm telling you now, episode 2 is going to be, I got some info for y'all to see. But remember the things I told you. Spread this, send this around. I'm telling y'all right now, I am giving you true inside game of understanding how the system works. My name is Dante Philippe. I'm a financial freedom fighter, wealth activist in the trenches for our community. Look, if you don't share this content with somebody, you're being selfish. You know what I mean? Don't keep this to yourself. Keep this content in your ether. Keep it in your atmosphere, because the transformation is taking place while you're listening. I love y'all. Y'all take it easy. Again, Dante Philippe, Trillionaires podcast. Tell somebody. Like and subscribe. Let go.
Already rich, you should look aside us. Already rich, you should look aside us.